Here's how to pay for grad school. The thing you need to realize is that you can get an unlimited amount of money in your name from the federal student loan program with no underwriting at all. You can get up to the cost of attendance of your program, which is really kind of an arbitrary number the school helps to set. So you can borrow absolutely anything you want for any graduate program in America that's basically minimally accredited. And you can also take out private loans. And there is a third option that is funded by some startups called an income share agreement, which is kind of like an income-based plan but with private investors. So that's too experimental for me. I generally suggest you do one of the first two options. So if you have to fund your education with debt, obviously I'm assuming that you've already exhausted all options to borrow, from family or from working or part-time or something like that. There's a couple things you need to think about when you're paying for graduate school. If you are going to borrow from family members, make sure that it's something that you actually needed to pay back. For example, if you're going to go work in a not-for-profit or public sector employer, you need to be utilizing some sort of forgiveness program, not borrowing from family. You can't get the government to forgive the debt that you borrowed from grandma, but the government can forgive the debt you borrowed from it. So this is a real common problem. Do not borrow from family members unless you are positive that you are going to be paying your debt down to zero within, say, 5 years of graduating your grad school program. So with that out of the way, you should primarily borrow using federal student loans. Federal student loans are usually 6-something%, 7-something% for Grad Plus. You have Stafford and you have Grad Plus loans. So those are the two kinds of loans that exist for federal student loans. The Stafford loans are the cheaper ones. They have a 1% upfront fee, and they have about a 6% interest rate that changes based off of what the government borrows at every year. So that could range anywhere from 5 to 7% probably in most years. So that Stafford loan is maxed out at about $20,500, and then for other medical programs that cost more, there's a little bit of a higher balance allowed for Stafford loans. For Grad Plus loans, these are used for any grad program to cover an unlimited amount of money over and above the limit for Stafford loans. So these Grad Plus loans are more expensive than Stafford loans. They have about a 4.25% origination fee up front. That's an upfront cost. If you borrow $1,000, you owe $42.50 of upfront fees that gets financed into your loan. So that really stinks. Now, with Grad Plus loans, they are very expensive. A typical interest rate might be something between 6 and 8%. And with that kind of an expensive cost of funding, you might be tempted to look at private student loans. Here's the problem with private student loans, though. In many cases, you might need a cosigner. So if you need a cosigner, I would be very, very hesitant to take out a private student loan because you don't want to wreck your family relationships over money. It's just not a good idea, even if you're saving a few $1,000s. The next thing to think about is for private student loans, even if you don't need a cosigner, or if you do and you're fine with the person cosigning and they're okay with it, then are you saving enough money to justify using private loans instead of federal loans? That's the only reason to take out private student loans, is if you can justify that lower interest rate causing you to have fewer borrower protections like income-based repayment options and forgiveness and forbearance options. So what is enough of an interest rate advantage to justify taking out private student loans? I think probably 1% is enough. So if you're taking out Grad Plus at 7% and you have a private loan offered to you at 6%, then that seems reasonable if you know that you're going to owe less than your salary when you graduate and you're not going to benefit from any nonprofit or public forgiveness programs. If you're sure you're going to pay your debt off to zero, then taking out private loans, especially to replace Grad Plus, can make some sense. If you are going to owe significantly more than your salary, then you're way better off going for a forgiveness program for paying based on your income for a couple decades after you graduate, and then maybe having a tax bill that you have to pay at the end. And private student loans can never be forgiven. So that is an awful, awful idea to take out a private student loan from a very expensive school because you could have gone federal and gotten forgiveness, and then your student loans are like a tax, not a debt. So for private student loans from graduate school, you got to be really careful that you do not take out debt that will hurt you in the long run. So if you do have, expected debt less than what you're going to make, you do have some Grad Plus loans that they're asking you to take out, consider private loans in that case. So studentloanplanner.com/private has a list of lenders that you could check out if that's your situation. And then also, if you are trying to figure out how to pay for grad school, we have a consult for that, studentloanplanner.com/predebt. This is a consult where we go over your options and explain to you the different choices you'll have for paying for graduate school and tell you what the potential cost and pros and cons would be of each different source of funding and what life could look like post-graduation. Any comments, just sound off below. Thanks for watching.